This conference will now be recorded.
Okay, so as I mentioned, up in the top right corner is your help menu. That has the manuals. By clicking that, and you can see it in Adobe PDF. This M2 logo that's in the top of your software, and are you by the comparator now or no?
We're in the lab with the comparator, yes.
Okay, so you're kind of looking at both the comparator and what I'm showing you at the same time. So, okay, so this M2 logo right here, by clicking that M2 logo with your left click mouse, this is to clean all of the stuff that's on the display out. So it's setting up a new program.
Okay.
The machine is always looking at what you're doing, so it's always making a part program. So it has the ability to save it when you're done, to open a part program, or to run a part program, which I will get in a little bit of that, and we'll see how that works. I've not done it on a offline version. The settings, this is where I was telling you that if you go to the settings window, there is features in here that you can turn on and off. So there's really no reason that you need to go in there, but that is where things, again, can be turned off, and we can work with you, or you can, it's either going to be under desktop or it could be under part view is where everything would be. It does have the ability on this file locations. Right now, this is where all of your data is being stored to. So your backups are going to the backups file, exports are going to exports, your parts programs are going to the parts. Just by clicking on that, so I clicked on the parts right here for location. If you want to change and set where you want that data to go to, it gives you the ability to set your drive to the direction that you want to put, whether it's programs or whatever, in. I would recommend that you leave a part program. If you ever do a part program, leave it on the computer. You may want to put your exports onto a network drive, which it's a PC, and you can network it. So that's no issues there. And if you got questions along the way, more than free to ask the questions as we go. Okay, so I'm going to hit done, and we're back to our display. So the first things, what I'm going to do is I'm going to talk to you about what's across the bottom, and then we will, I'm going to bring up kind of a comparator screen that you're going to see. The most important is right here, this crosshair. By clicking on that, I'm going to show you the various features on the software, but you have a crosshair, you have an edge probe, and then you have an automatic edge probe, which we will go through. So you have the edge probe, correct? That's on your display?
We do not.
We don't have crosshair.
You do not. Okay, so you just have just the crosshair and no probe on your screen.
That's correct.
We have point, line, circle, distance.
Okay. Okay. So we will not be teaching these features, but I'll show you what they are, just so you got an idea. If later on, if you want to do an upgrade or whatever, you'll know what it is. So we're in the crosshair mode, and we're ready to go. Again, I got to move my screen a little bit here, so I apologize. So really, you got points, you got lines, you got circles, you got distances, angles, and you got a skew. Help me out. What kind of parts do you guys do?
Wireform, machine parts.
Okay, stamping and stuff, wireform?
Yeah.
Okay, so one of the beauties that the software allows you to do, and I don't have a, I can't manipulate it on the screen, but most of the time you're trying to align the part on the stage because the part's crooked and so you're tapping on it until you get it straight, then that's kind of like your datum reference from an old comparator that you may have had before. So that's one of the nice things with this feature, this datuming system right here. It's nice because I don't care if the part is crooked or if it's straight. I can create let's say my A datum, and I can actually make that A datum, even if it's crooked, it will think that it's straight. And that's it in your part alignment. So it's nice to see it do it, but my part that we can manipulate it, and I'll show you kind of how that works as we go. So on this software, I've got this little green dot in the corner. Just by opening it up, now I've got a comparator. Okay, so that's what that is. Now the yellow dot, that would be my edge detection. So since I don't have it, we're not going to be using the edge detection. Okay. So any questions?
Not yet.
Okay. So on the crosshair, yours will be on the screen. So really, the crossing section of that crosshair, that is kind of where my point locator is. So everything I want to do, I want to use that as a point. So the first thing I want to do is I'm going to say that on this part, as you can kind of see the part here in a big view, my datum on this part happens to be right here. So this is my A datum, and this line here is my B datum. So obviously, if this A datum is crooked, that would become a problem that I can work with in the system to correct. So the first thing I want to do is I want to tell it, I want to measure a line. So by clicking on my line, now you can either touch your screen to do that line. I believe you got a touch screen, or you can click with your mouse on that line. Okay. This is if we're not going to use this, but this is if you wanted to create a line in space. Right now, we do want to measure a line. If you were going to continuously measure lines, this is the repeat. So it would just stay in the line mode for you. So we told it we're going to measure a line. Sorry. We told it we're going to measure a line. And you see over in the top right, you see line 1, 0 points. So I'm going to move my stage until I get to the far end of the part. And I can either hit enter on my screen. So you guys either can hit enter there, or you can just touch in this area with your finger. It'll create a point. A line, help me out, anybody. How many points do I need to have to create a line?
2.
There you go. Right. That was a trick question. I just want to make sure everybody was awake here. Did somebody say 1? I thought so. Okay. So you can also take as many points as you want. So if you want to take, 20, 30, 40 points, it's no problem. And I'll show you what taking more points, what the value is for that. So I did my 4 points. I tell it I'm done. So it measures this line. It tells me, and right now I don't have a datum, but it shows me my X, my Y, and it tells me that it's a little off of being square, okay? So now what I want it to do, so I tell it I'm done. So now we see, and I believe, I'm not sure where this is going to be on your screen. You can see that line that I just measured, and you can see my datum is it's just when I turn the machine on, that's where my datum is sitting. So it doesn't mean anything. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to come over here to my datum. I'm going to click that. I'm going to tell it I want to skew that part. Remember I said that it's like 42 minutes off a square? So this will skew the part. So I want to hit skew, and then I can either, what I want to do is I want to come over and I want to click on this line right here and tell it that I'm done. So now it has skewed that line. So I'm going to tell it done. So now that line is flat. Another thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to create another line here. So I'll use my crosshair. I'm going to enter a point. Tell it that I'm done. Now, being that I've got, so in my picture over here, I've got this line right here, and I have this line right here, right? So what I want to do now is I want to come back. So I'm just going to click on my DRO right here. I want to hit my X for 0. And what we'll do is that will set up, or actually what I'll do is I'll hit, now see up here, my datum. My datum is at the corner of this line and this line. That's on my part. You guys with me on that?
Yep.
Okay. So I'm gonna keep moving on, and I'm gonna come back to that datum, and I'm gonna talk about that with things you can do. And these are things that most people probably don't ever do, but it's something that you have the ability to do. Okay. Why is my screen? I gotta figure out why I can't see my. Okay. I'm not seeing my. Okay, sorry about that. Okay, so I want to measure a circle. Okay, so I'm going to measure this circle right here. So I'm going to click on circle, and I already know you guys will get me on this one that you need 3 points to create a circle. What I'm going to do is I'm going to create more points. So you hit my enter, 1 point, point. Yeah. If you take one, let's just say you got one way out here in no man's land that you took. So that's point number 6. You can hit your undo at the very top, and it'll get rid of that point. So by taking more than 3 points, you create a form of that circle. And what is it telling me right here? My X and my Y. My X is 1.8557 from my datum, and 4.5049 in the Y direction from my datum. If I look at this as a picture, remember my datum that's up here? It's showing a circle to the center of the circle. That is 1.8 by 0.5, and the next 3.8. Okay. Now, the other thing that that circle, as I said, right now I took 8 points, and it tells me right here I've got a form tolerance of 0.0107. Okay. this least squared right here. Right now, my form, so there is my lowest point, and my highest point is either this one or this one. So that's really my out around condition is what I'm looking at 0.384 with a form tolerance of 0.0107. Squared here, by clicking on that, maximum inscribed. So now all of the points are on the outside of the diameter, and the diameter is smaller. What is that for? If you got a pin gauge and you're putting your pin through the stamped hole, that is the size 0.3757. That's the size of pin gauge to put through that hole, and it'll fit. If you put the one to the nominal, because the part is a little bit out of round, it may not go through. You guys with me on that?
Yeah.
Okay, and by the same is if I hit this again, that maximum inscribe. So now this is going to be everything outside of the circle. Okay, and what that'll do is that will give me, like if I'm sorry, right here it is maximum material condition. This is going to be the size I have on what I could like to go over a post, right? This is the biggest, I would need a ring gauge of this size to go over the post. You do have the ability, right here is your actual. Clicking on actual, it'll go to nominal. If you want, you can come over and you can say, make that 0.375. You can come over and you can put a tolerance on it. And your tolerances, you can put true position, you can put X, you can put Y, you can put diameters. So if I just want a diameter tolerance, I just click on the D, make it say 0.005, and I tell it I'm done. And I tell it I'm done with the feature. So it will show you a graph on your tolerance. So anywhere on there, you have the ability to set your tolerance on this. If you also notice, one of the things that I can do is on my tolerances, I can do true position, I can do run out, and I can do circularity. I can also set my X and my Y tolerance. Now, how many people are doing this on a comparator? Probably not a lot, but the feature is there. So you have the ability that you can do that without a problem. Okay. So that's doing a circle that we did. Now, let me show you another way of doing a circle. We'll do this arc over here, okay? Or we'll do one of the circles in the bowl hole. When I hit circle, I'm going to come over and I'm just going to do points. And I can either click in this area or hit enter, either way. So if I click enter, the thing that I can do is, you see this little red countdown? What that will do is when I move my stage and I stop, it will give me a timer and it will automatically count down and take the point. Okay. I'm done. Let's go do another circle. So I tell it I want to measure another circle.
Are you able to change the timer on how fast that counts down?
I do not believe you can. But the nice part is, so let's do the fourth one. If I move it to where it's a timer after I stop. After I stop. So if I move before the timer hits 0, it won't take the point. So for instance, I come down here for my fourth point, and I can move it, and you see how it's green again. So you'll see it, the countdown, I move it, and it's gone again. So as long as I'm moving it, it doesn't count down. It only counts down when I let it go. And then there's a timer that if I don't move the stage, it will take the point. And again, if you don't want it, you just hit the button right there. Just hit that button, and now all you do is either touch here or hit enter, either way. So you're done. Okay, so over here on the right, here's my part view, and I can see the different features that I want to measure. Okay. So I'm going to do another circle. I know it's getting boring on circles, but we're going to do a little bit of math here in a minute. So if I want, I can hit the circle and I can hit the repeat. So now I go to do this circle, enter, 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 done. Now see how it's ready for circle 9? So it just stays in that mode. Until until I got my whole bolt pattern here. Okay, so now that I'm done with circles and I don't want to do anymore, so what I can do is I can just hit done, and it takes me out of that repeated mode to keep doing circles. So I'm going to click over here on my screen again. I can see all my features that I've measured. So here's where, various things of the software, okay? What's one of the things that you might want to know based on what we've measured on this part right now?
Bolt circle diameter.
Bolt circle diameter. Any guess on how you're going to do that?
Highlight those features.
Almost perfect. Almost perfect. First, I got to tell it that I want to measure a circle.
Circle of all those features.
And then exactly what you just said. So you can either click on the circle with your mouse, or you can come over here and you can left click. And I'm missing number 5. Exactly what you just said. So you just got to hit the circle to tell it what is the feature you want. Hit done. So now there is your X and your Y location of the circle and the diameter of that circle. Okay. What is something else that you might do?
Angle between holes of the bolt hole features.
Man, you're writing my script. This is great. You got it. So let's say that on the print, let's say that that this circle and this circle, I want the angle between the two. So what you need to do is you need to create, so I'm helping you out because I know you got it here. You want to create a line between the circles, and you want to create a line between these circles. So I'm going to come over here to line. I'm going to say I want a line between circle 7 and my diameter. Tell it done. And I want to come over and say I want a line between this circle and this circle. Well done. There's two things that you have, and in most blueprints that I'm aware of, usually there's a couple things that they'll ask you. One is they may ask you what is the angle based off of your datum to the circle, which it's probably 30 degrees, and this one shows up 29.19. So that's one of the things that they may do. The other thing is exactly what you just said is, so right here is your angle button. So I click an angle, and what I want to do is I want to construct it. So I want to use this line and this line, tell it that I'm done. And it's 60 degrees, 5 minutes, 22 seconds. Actually, it's in 2200ths of a degree. Oh no, degrees, minutes, seconds. So it is 60 degrees, 5 minutes, 22 seconds. And then it labels it for feature 14. So now what we have, so anything else you might, from what we've done, that you might want to know?
Center of the whole circle.
The distance between the whole circle 4 and the center of the bowl hole pattern. The true position of it.
So this is my distance key. So if I hit distance, circle 4, to there, tell it done. There's my X, my Y, and my straight line length. Okay, now here's one of the nice features that you have. So that's center to center. What if they wanted to know the wall thickness between them? Okay, so I can click on this distance and it'll bring it up over here. You see here it says center. Click it once and it's nearest. Click it twice, it's the farthest. So if you got a slot, it's farthest, center to center, or you can leave it on the nearest. So when we tell it we're done, now we have, it will leave it like that in that feature. I come up to my data, putting everything in there for you, all your features.
So it's all.
If you Excel on your machine, right here, you can either go to Excel or you can go to, so when you're in the view of your data, you can go to Excel or you can go to a CSV file, or you can output it as a CAD file, as a DXF. Okay. This over here is just various reports you can choose. So if you want a CSV report, it's going to look like that. Usually, if you're doing all tolerances, it will give you a tolerance report. A European report, it's giving you your windows of tolerance. I think most people, there's a standard report. A lot of people like that European report. This one only gives you tolerances. Most people, it's that European report is what they're looking at, or it's the a CSV report. Okay. So I'm going to go back to my part view. So now that I have this up here, let me give you a couple other things that you can do. When we made the angle that we did, I showed you how to construct an angle by creating two lines, and I showed you how to create a line, how we did it. But ability in a, if I go back to my screen, if I want to measure a line just by doing 2 points, so it draws me the line, it tells me it's 45 degrees, and I can see it on my part view right here, line number 16. I also have the ability that I can, let's say I want to measure this angle right here, okay? So what I can do is I have two ways. Either I can create two lines and then make an angle, or I can say angle. What I'm going to do is I'm going to take a point, tell it I'm done with that angle, or with that line, basically. Sorry. Must have missed my, I must have missed the second one. Okay, so it's different on how it does it here. So I must have my 4 points and it'll figure out where angle is at. Okay. So, so you have the angle right there. You do have the complements of the angle. So that's your included. This is going to be your angle minus 180, which gives you this right here. And you see 180 minus the angle. This is 180 plus the angle. And then this is the 360 minus your angle. So the goal is you don't have to get out a pad of paper and pencil to figure out your angle. It's going to be in one of these four. And a lot of times the designers draw angles and we're trying to figure out what did they just do to us. And this will give you your answer pretty well. So the other thing that you have is, I did this angle 17 and 18. I also can say a point between this line and this line, and now I have the intersecting point of the angle. Okay, so we went pretty far. I haven't tried this, so we're going to see how this works. So I'm going to save the part program. Sorry, I'm going to call it concept. And now what I'm going to try and do is I'm going to hit the run button. And okay, so see how I've got this red dot over here? It's telling me where to move my stage. So now we're going to see if this works. I'm going to move my stage. It's not going to show it to me up there because I can't see the part view at the same time on the software. But what it's trying to do is it's trying to pick my points by show you the part view. You see how my red dot is moving? What'll happen is this red dot will keep moving as you measure the part. Now you see how it automatically switched to the next line? So if I look at my part view again, you see it's over here, ready to measure. So if I come over and I take a point here, and you'll see that red dot on your screen as it's moving. Okay. Now it's ready to, so now if I look at it, now it's telling you this is your next dot. So because I can't see the screen at the same time as I'm moving that screen over to there, that's what it's doing, is it's walking you through where the next feature is for you to measure this entire part. Pretty neat. There.
And then the other screen that you have is that so
I'm not gonna finish this part since I can't see both views of it. But like I said, you'll be able to see that on yours. Okay.
Okay.
So I'm gonna hit the M2. Any other questions that I'm on what we just did here that you might have?
not that I can think of.
Okay, so let me show you a couple. So I'm going to hit this new part. Want to save the part program? No, because we already saved it. So I was showing you the datum. Let's assume that my datum happened to be this line right here. This was my A datum. So if I measure a line, hit enter, and I hit enter, and I'm done. So now now what I'm going to do is I'm going to hit my skew, my datum. I'm going to say skew the part, and my datum is this line. Tell it I'm done. So now you see over here, the line is flat, okay? And I tell it I'm done. So as I move forward, that line is straight now. So that it has the ability to compensate and make your datum and straighten it out the way that you would want. So if I go now and I measure, if I measure this line right here, what's that line going to look like? It's going to look like that, straight. This is now my datum, so this is going to actually be up in the air at an angle because this is my zero. This is my datum. Remember? So now it's up in the air. You with me on that?
Yep.
Yep.
Okay. So there's another thing that you can do is, and I don't see this a lot on prints. So I'm going to hit the M2 and I'm going to start all over a new part. So I have seen, and this is, sometimes I've seen it in bolt hole patterns. Create a line. Okay, so I create a line and I measure it. Now I go to my datum, and this is create an offset skew. So if I create an offset skew, I I can either move my datum, or I have the ability to do a or I have the ability to go in, sorry here. Or I have the ability to go into the datum. This is an offset skew or just a skew. So if I hit skew, I'm going to use my line. And now I'm going to go back in and I'm going to rotate it by 30 degrees. So essentially you can rotate a skew if you need to. Do I see that very often? No, I really don't, but it is in there. And I just wanted to show you that not only can you, once you skew the part, but you can rotate your skew, you also can move. So if you find a 0, 0, and maybe it's off of, let's say you got a 12-inch diameter, and you measure that diameter, and from the center of that diameter, the datum is actually 4 inches by 3 inches. That's where you can go in and you can create an offset, and you can go off of that 4 inch by 3 inch and set an offset skew. Is it done very often? No, it's not, but it is a feature that's in there. So I'm just telling you what it is.
Hey, Rick, I have a question.
Yeah.
Instead of rotating around an angle, do you have the option to rotate around X and Y coordinates?
So
not offset X and Y, but actually rotate around X, Y, so it calculates the angle for you. Because that I see a lot in print.
yeah, so so if I can delete this, let's just start all over. So I'm going to quickly make this line right here. Okay, so I just measured that line. So first what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to my datum. I'm going to skew to that line. Now I'm going to go to measure another line. So there's two ways of doing it. So I'm done. So I can go to my datum and I can say set my datum between my skew and my line until I'm done. Now, if I'm looking at my view, there's my datum right there, right?
Mm-hmm.
So now I can go and I can datum, rotate. I can rotate it, let's say, minus 30. Tell it that I'm done. And so so my skew is still in the same spot, but it is now rotated at 30 degrees.
Yeah, I see that. But my question was if you can use X, Y coordinates for that, not the angle. But the input only showed an angle, so I'm guessing you can't.
So this is my X and this was my Y that I created. So yeah, that's how we would do that. So yes, I create an X and then I create a Y, and then I set the datum between the X and the Y, and then I rotated it minus 30 degrees.
Okay, so the software can only rotate around angles though then?
No, if I've got, so I'll give you another example. So let's go back to our bullhole. So I want to measure a circle, and I want to measure one, two, I want to go and measure another circle. Okay, so I got the two circles. Now what I would do is I can create my datum. So I want to skew using my two circles. Tell it I'm done. So now it's skewed off of those two circles. Now I can rotate off of those two circles, and then set a Y after that, or I can figure out where my Y is going to be now. But that now is my straight, is those two circles. So we had seen that was at 30 degrees, that one of these circles was. So I could now go into my datum, and I can do my rotate, minus 30. So that I'm done. What it's going to look like is it just took those two circles and rotated it. I still don't have a defined, one axis that it tells where my zeros are at. And I'd probably get that off of the bullhole before I was all done. So if I go back and I measure on my part view, if I measure this circle right here, it should come out, I believe. Well, it's going to be either 0 or no. I bet you it's going to be 60 degrees. So that's my X and Y. I have to look at the straight line coordinate, and I don't have that up on right here. I do. Sorry. So okay, 43 degrees. So it rotated it. The 15 degrees is what it did. So that is so yeah, I can rotate based off of whether it is circles, lines, it doesn't matter. I just have to create the datum, rotate it, and then create the other axis at some point.
Right, but point is that you always need to have an angle. You rotate around an angle. You have to input the angle, not an XY.
So how would you do it differently? A plane?
No, so for instance, with some softwares, let's look at this bolt hole pattern here. Let's say we have the one where your crosshairs is on right now. So that is our origin, if you want to call it that. And then we are skewed to the one that is on the bottom, but we want that to be in line. But we don't know the angle, what that angle is. So a lot of prints, what they tell you is the X and Y from the bottom print, from the bottom hole where your mouse is on, back to where the crosshairs are now. And then you can rotate, instead of rotating around an angle, you just plug in the X, Y, and it will calculate out the angle for you and just rotate it. But I don't think the software can do that from what I've seen just now.
So that was the offset right there. So I can put an X and a Y offset, and then it will rotate to that.
Okay.
So if it's a circle and I didn't know what it was, I can offset to a given number, and it'll do it either by X or by Y by switching that.
Okay, great. So instead of you're not offsetting the 0 point then of your program, you're actually offsetting the skew then. That's what I wanted. Cool. Thank you.
Yes. You're asking CMM questions here.
Yeah, sorry.
Don't worry, I'm run CMM, so I know where it's going. So
Okay.
not an issue. Now, some other things that you have the ability to do, just as I'm going to show you. If I take a line and I take a radius, I can create a point where line and radius intersect. It will always give you not only this point, but it'll give you the point on, both points where it intersects the line. So you can do features like that. Trying to think of anything else that I missed. The distance, yeah, an arc is an arc, which is no big deal. Oh, do you guys do any thread gauges or any threads?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, you guys, send Concept another $100 for this one, okay? So let's use this line and let's use this line and let's pretend this is part of our V in a part, right? So so let me start with a new screen. So you just got to work with me since I don't have a V. We're just making, this is going to be our V right here, where I would put a ball, a thread, measuring over threads. With me on that?
Sure.
Okay. I measure a line here, measure a line here, tell it I'm done. I want to come and I want to measure another line. Okay, so now I have my view with my two lines. These are my threads. I tell it measure a circle, and I may get this wrong, but we'll get to it here. And I want to measure a circle. I want to create that circle, and the size of the circle is 0.375. Tell it done. So now the circle's sitting out here in midair. So now I tell it that I want to measure the circle again, and I want to take this circle, this line, and this line, tell it done, and it automatically inserts the circle between the two lines. So if you do that again on another circle, then you measure the distance from circle and change it to farthest, you'll be over the threads. So you won't have to buy thread wires.
Nice.
Was that worth $100 to give the concept?
So, yeah.
It's a nice feature that, again, most people will never use that, but that's what it is. Okay, if that ball for whatever reason didn't show up in the right spot, I believe that this right here, now, okay, it doesn't do anything with that one. All right. That's a change. And where that would be found is if I measure a circle, if I just measure a radius, so I've got it, and actually I wanted it to be an arc and not a diameter. This right here, yeah. By clicking that button, it changes it, and now you've got an arc, and it shows you the radius. And notice that one circle is red because we created it. I would say that is pretty much everything on this display. The only areas that I would say, again, I got a keyboard, I've got my data screen, my part view screen, and my digital readout screen. Degrees, minutes, and seconds, I can click that if it's degrees decimal. And this is Cartesian. Click that, it gives me polar and it gives me angle. And if you don't see these on your screen, by going to M2 stage, settings, leave it on desktop. You can hit the Excel button right on the desktop just by changing it. There's your Cartesian button. You just change it to desktop, so it can be no, extra, or on the desktop. If it's on extra, there's a box where everything gets thrown into, and it's just an extra box. I would put it on the desktop. I don't use the keyboard, so I'm actually going to say no, I don't want the keyboard anymore. The other thing that I want to show you, so see now I've got no keyboard up there. The other thing is in the part view. Down here, display feature numbers. So what was doing, it was doing 2, 3, 4, 5. You want to go in and you want to change that display feature numbers and turn it to both, and it will go ahead and label all of your features for you. And again, that was under part view. The rest of it, I'd stay out of it. Okay, last but not least, I'm just gonna give you 2 seconds on this. The crosshair. If you had an edge detection, it would be a little probe like this yellow that sat right off of the crosshair. It would have the ability to teach light and dark, and then you would be able to measure with the edge probe. So if I want to measure a circle, I'm moving my stage and I cross. It finds
Sounds like a scam. I don't know how much it is.
Okay, so that's kind of what a edge detection does. Some people like it, some people don't. It's, you know, it's like a couple $1,000 upgrade, so it's not cheap. That's what it does. I have nothing else that I can think of, and we really went in depth on this one. But I'm going to stop the recording.